Hey guys, Locodoco here, former TSM head coach with current TSM head coach Tony. Unfortunately, I wish we could have been doing this interview off a win, but you guys lost against FlyQuest. Could you kind of walk me through what you thought was the biggest problems?
I wouldn't say that there was like a biggest problem. I'd say that there's just like a lot of small mistakes that were made, just like a compounding snowball, I guess, of mistakes. Just like small detail things, like for example, losing the bottom 2v2, getting duo killed. There's just two small details that ended up getting a pretty strong punish for them. That like helped snowball the game a bit. Zoe getting blue smite off of a creep before going for our Baron 50-50 situation. A top gank that we did, not accounting for their jungler. It's just a lot of really small detail things. It's a lot of basics, things that we don't usually mess up. It's something that we're working on in scrims that I'm pretty confident we'll fix moving forward.
Even though there was the mistake from Zben Smoothie in the 2v2 you mentioned, there's a lot of criticism for Akaadian and BrokenBlade for yesterday's games versus Echo Fox and getting 2v1, and they are the newer rookie members.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Akaadian and BrokenBlade situation at the moment?
I'm pretty confident that long term they'll be able to fix these problems. It's a very, very long season, and to have some of these problems show up and we're finding progress on them in scrims is like great for me. Obviously, we made a lot of mistakes because we were over-forcing. But for example, if both of these scenarios, we just burned Aatrox ult, flash, back up, then we like win the situation entirely. It's just really just pulling back at that point. That makes the difference. So I think that overall, they'll play a lot better in snowballing BB's lead. And I feel confident that they're gonna resolve it.
So you made a comment, not publicly, it was leaked through Afro's DMs on Discord about there being a lot of fan pressure when joining TSM and a lot of scrutiny. Has that been actually true? You guys are 2-2 now. That's not even that bad of a score, and it's so early. Have you felt that kind of pressure joining TSM compared to when you were coaching on CLG?
No, I didn't. I don't really feel any of the pressure per se. I think that obviously there is, I guess, like this looming like pressure that like it's important for us to do well. But at the same point, like some pressure is good. It's like pressure exists so that you can understand like if something's like good or bad, right? So it's important for us to understand that like the pressure is something that's good for us. And I've experienced some pressure, and it comes basically just through good pressure, I would say. So it's motivating me to work harder, work longer hours, stay over, even watch people playing solo queue to, try to help them as much as I can, or maybe see what they're playing, if they can change anything, just like a lot of these small detail things. I think that the pressure overall has been a good experience for me.
Don't you think some of it's unfair? There's this expectation when you're coaching TSM to get first or make finals every single split, which is unheard of. And you're competing versus teams like Team Liquid, who have pure star-studded roster, where TSM, of course, has a great roster, but objectively, comparing it to TL, it's something... TL definitely has better players. Don't you think some of the pressure as a TSM staff member that you're feeling is not, I would say, the most fair?
I don't mind it too much. I think no matter what team I'm working with, I'll think the same way. Like, we want to win every single game. We're going to have the mindset that we're going to win every single game. And I think it's fair for the fans that they think that we're going to win every single game, because that's the mindset that we're going into every game with. So I think it's completely fair.
So there's been a lot of criticism in the TSM jungle position. It's like, as people like to say, hey, Harry Potter and Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher position, where you get replaced every season. And then with ZIKZ's wrist injury and an Akaadian being a new player, it's also a position that's being very scrutinized. What's the future of that position going to look like as ZIKZ's wrist recovers?
Currently, we're talking about doing maybe like a 6-man roster, for example, once it heals long term. We're not really 100% certain as to like exactly the details, because it is going to be somewhat of a recovery process. Hopefully it's not a very long recovery process. But it is something we're talking about internally to try to solve. Yeah.
Was there anything very surprising about joining TSM because you've only been on CLG, really? You started as an analyst and then assistant coach and then head coach on CLG, and this is like the first new org you've ever been on. So what was like the most shocking difference being on a completely different team and a team such as TSM?
I would say that the most like different thing about TSM from CLG was that I used to work with a lot of like NA players or Korean players, so I never had really worked with European players before, and European players are just very very straightforward and blunt with how they communicate, which is great. Like I love it. It's something that I always wanted to, or that I always like pushed for my NA and Korean players to like talk that way with each other, so that we can like get straight to the actual like butt of the problem. But we always struggled with that on CLG to like actually get people to like really talk through their feelings. We'd have to have a big meeting to be able to do this. But in this team, like the environment itself feels so good that in the middle of a post game, right, somebody can like really seriously call someone out in a way that's maybe on my old team they would deem it as toxic, but on this team nobody takes it in a toxic way, so it's not toxic, right? It's just telling them exactly how you feel and trying to resolve the problem as fast as possible. And I think that's like probably the biggest change, or like the biggest like positive for sure that I've seen when I moved to TSM.
So a lot of people say the season is very obvious in how it's going to end, with TL finishing first. Do you think it's that cut and clear, where TL has that great of a roster where they are that unreachable?
I don't think they're unreachable by any means. I think that there are a few rosters, like our roster, I think C9 also, are definitely really, really capable of like beating this team. Like on any given day, I'm pretty sure we can beat this team. And it's not like, TL is just this unbeatable Goliath, but if you treat them like that, then they will be unbeatable, So it's just really important, especially for our mindset and for other teams that play this team, that they just realize that, they're not this huge, scary Goliath that as soon as you make a mistake, the game's over. They're not perfect, but if you have the mindset that they're perfect, then you'll never know what the answer is in game. You'll never know what to do. So it's important to recognize that.
So one other huge common TSM theme is the team just always plays around Bjergsen. Bjergsen's so passive. Bjergsen turns people into wars. Like a lot of negative criticism coming for Bjergsen, even with all the success he's had. What's your personal point on kind of the unfair criticism that Bjergsen has been given?
I haven't seen any of this criticism myself, but I'd say it's a bit unfair. The way that we play, at least this TSM, is like the jungler's making the decisions. It's not really about, like Soren's like screaming, I need wards right now, right? Like it's not anything like that. It's just the jungler's doing what's best for the map as a whole, and he's making all of those decisions. So if, bottom needs help, or bottom needs to set up like a good poking position, then, that's how Matt's playing. That's just how it is. It's not going to be, just one person can control the entire jungler and make him do everything, right? It's just the map doesn't work that way.
Any final words for TSM fans and also the haters?
It sucks to start 2-2. Obviously, we would have loved to start 4-0, and I think that, especially in the clutch game, we had a lot of control, but we just couldn't close it out. Individual mistakes happen, team mistakes happen. I think it's just important that as a team, you'll always, or as fans, you'll always know that as a team, we will always win as a team or lose as a team. So the individual mistakes, even though they happen, they happen. I think the team is also using this mindset, so it's really, really good long term, that we'll be progressing no matter what. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Tony, so much for the interview. And if you guys enjoyed the coverage, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much to Low-Key Community for making this interview happen. If you guys want to support them, the link is going to be down in the bio.